So unless you've been living under a rock for the last few weeks, you've probably heard of this movie called The Menu. It's kind of taken the foodie world by storm. Everyone seems to be talking about it, especially if they've been to fine dining and things like that before. And all I seem to be hearing are the perspectives of, food journalists, foodies, and cinema reviewers. And strangely, none by cooks or chefs or servers. So today, I'm going to attempt to remedy this a little bit. And if you're a foodie in particular, I hope that what we're about to talk about in this video gives you a better kind of grip on what your dynamic with us as chefs actually is. And before you ask, yes, I'm at home. And yes, I always dress like this at home because I love being a chef so much. Now, The Menu is directed by Mark Mylod and stars Nicholas Hoult, everyone's favorite Anya Taylor-Joy, and the man, the myth, the legend, Lord Voldemort himself. So we start the movie off with an enthusiastic foodie played by Nicholas Hoult. This guy is also a little bit of a tool, and he is bringing his much more down-to-earth dinner date to a once-in-a-lifetime, literally to-die-for dining experience at Restaurant Hawthorne, which is one of the world's best restaurants and is a place that's definitely on the San Pellegrino's 50 best list. And this is a place that's helmed by renowned chef Lord Voldemort. We're briefly introduced to the other diners, an entitled food critic and her editor, an old money, wealthy couple who are regulars at Hawthorne, 3 finance bros who work for Voldemort's big investor, a bumbling ex-movie star turned travel show host and his hapless assistant, and of course our 2 protagonists played by Hoult and Taylor-Joy. This restaurant is a whole experience. So first, the diners get on this ferry where they'll be served a few courses and then ship them off to where the restaurant is located. Once they've arrived at this private island, they are greeted by a creepily realistic maitre d' who gives them a tour around the place, shows them everything from where their seafood will be coming from, to where the meat is dry aged, to the barracks where the staff lives, to where the chef's house is, and finally to the main dining room. Now, the main dining room is where the rest of the movie will be taking place, pretty much. Basically, the idea is Lord Voldemort has this master plan, which he intends to use as a way to get back at these people who are in the restaurant, who he sees as the ones responsible for him losing his passion for his craft and for degrading his art into something like vulgar content. He's lured them all here under the pretense of giving them an amazing meal, specially and exclusively just for these people. But his real master plan is to burn the entire thing down on top of them, along with himself and his staff, because he sees all of these people gathered in this place as filthy and all have deserved to die. The only one who escapes this fate is Anya Taylor-Joy's character, who, as it turns out, is just a normal girl who works a working class job as an escort and is able to see through the whole thing for what it is. She is the only one who's able to connect with Chef Voldemort on a human level after finding out that the only time when he's really been happy in his past was when he was a young boy working at a burger shop. And in the middle of the meal, when the plot has been revealed, she orders a burger from him. And in one of the best scenes of the entire movie, Chef Voldemort lovingly and meticulously cooks and plates up this burger for her, which she takes a big bite out of and asks for it to go, leaves him a small tip, and then he allows her to escape, basically. Now, the movie is wonderfully done, but it's not so much the movie I want to talk about, it's more the public's reaction to it. And I've seen a lot of comments and headlines that look a lot like this. We're being bad customers. The Menu is a movie made for pretentious foodies like you and me. Absolutely amazing. I am a 30-year chef, and to be perfectly honest, this is kind of what most of us secretly dream about. Now, if you're a foodie, I just want to reassure you that that is not true at all for the vast majority of us. And this is not what the dynamic between you and us really is. And all the things that they were satirizing, the taking of pictures, the posting of blogs, the filming of YouTube videos, all this stuff, we secretly want you to do all those things, okay? We want you to go to our restaurant, take pictures of our food, and share it with your friends so they can come and do the same thing as well, okay? That's what cooks and chefs love to see. If you had to name one reason for why chefs choose to do this to themselves, it's because of other chefs, actually, believe it or not. We are our own natural predator, not you, okay? Even the worst of you, we have thick enough skin to deal with the things that you say. It's the thing that people like this will do. And if I could share my personal feelings about this as well, and I know a lot of my brothers and sisters in the industry feel the same way, I just want you to know that you guys, you foodie diner guests out there, that you guys are the reason that me and many others got into this. Because no one really got into this to cook fancy food or fine dining food. Let me just tell you, no one, very, very few got into it to cook that kind of thing. Most of us got into it because we like food. We like feeding people. We like making things delicious. We got into this because we fell in love with that feeling of putting something in front of you, making it with our own hands, having you eat it and smile and tell us that it was delicious and that you really enjoyed it, and seeing you come back and trying more things that we make and telling your friends. Those are the reasons that made us have this passion in the first place. So do not for a second think that you're the bane of our existence and our goal is to create some utopia where chefs don't have to be accountable to any customers or diners or food critics at all. It's quite the opposite. The worst situation for a chef would be to live in a world where there's nothing but other chefs. That is that sounds like hell. It's a cliche. There's too many chefs in the kitchen, but I think that was something that was totally forgotten about by the people who are talking about this movie. And it's funny because one of the biggest things that the movie pointed out for me wasn't this thing of class or privilege. What it really told me was the way that chefs and restaurants in our sort of American food industry culture love to shirk responsibility. This is really deep water, but it's like tipping. The restaurant can't be a legitimate business while paying their workers, right? So they make you, the customer, subsidize their labor costs. That's what they're doing. And now, because we can't treat our cooks right, we need to blame the customers and tell them that they should treat cooks better, when it's really the people on the inside that are causing that. And now we're going up to the customers again and saying that it's somehow their responsibility to make sure that creative chefs and creative cooks feel acknowledged and seen and valued. That shouldn't be their job. It should be the job of the people who are choosing to open and run these places. And it's just so like the restaurant industry to shirk responsibility like that. There's this brilliant scene in The Bear where Carmy has a flashback to what his life was like in fine dining. And it shows this tyrannical chef standing over him. If you want a good illustration of what life is like in the restaurants and with things that make cooks want to, it's stuff like this. It's not what you saw in the menu, okay? And that's not the way that cooks will see the people who come to eat their food. And a lot of people who are saying these things say it with an air of someone who's very wise and very charitable to the restaurant industry, as if, you know, they are one of the woke individuals who understand it. And it just drives me off the wall because it misses the issue entirely. And if you're a cook or a chef, tell me if you back me up on this one. What makes you reconsider your career more? This?
Apologize to her.
Go fuck yourself, mate.
Or this?
First you finish the fucking dishes. Is that clear? Yes, sir.
Day after day after day. And that is something I feel like we don't appreciate enough of in the American restaurant world. Is the fact that 98% of the people who come into your restaurant are genuinely there because they are excited to be there and because they want to have a good time. Even if they don't fully bask in the brilliance of their head chef. I suspect that this movie, in large part, was something that was made by people who sympathize with the chef artists and the head honchos of fine dining restaurants and want to voice their complaints out to the foodie world. And I know, if you're anything like me, you feel very seen when articles say things like this. But those are the people who represent only a tiny fraction of the total number of opinions in the industry. The attitude stereotypes shown in the movie, I bet, do hurt the egos of the head chefs and the head honchos of the fanciest restaurants. But for the vast majority of people who work in these places, they find that about 95% of the guests who come in are extremely well-mannered, are a delight to host and cook for. I mean, the reality is that we have less control over what the customers do and what the outside world chooses to do, and we have way more control about what we can do in our own industry or in our own kitchens. And if we choose to, we can make a lot of the things that are talked about in this movie completely immaterial. If you're a cook, you can choose who you choose to follow and who you choose to trust your career to, and who you work for, the kinds of places you decide to open in the future, and the sort of food that you make there. You can choose these things. My biggest concern is that at a time when a lot of things are finally surfacing about the restaurant industry and finally being talked about, that the main takeaway of this movie is going to distract from it all and stop us from going down that conversation further. If we assume that our restaurant system is diseased and broken, the menu is a total misdiagnosis of it. It brings up an issue that no one in the industry was seriously talking about. And especially since it's sharing center stage right now with a lot of really well-made media like The Bear that do talk about those things, that just started the completely wrong conversation. Because in many ways, even after the rise of sort of insider informants like Kitchen Confidential or Chef's Table or things like that, the restaurant industry is still a very opaque place. I mean, you can hear it in this guy. There's this glory in knowing someone on the inside. And most people tend to think that they know more about the way the industry is and the problems that it has than they actually do. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Did you see the movie? Would this be something you would recommend to a friend of yours who's a foodie or who works in the restaurant industry? And if you do work in the restaurant industry, what would you tell me about my worry that this is distracting from a more important conversation? Do you think it'd be productive to open our minds to the problems that the menu brings up? Or do you think we should stay focused on the issues of abusive chefs, harsh workplace environments, and things like that? Let me know down in the comments below. And I'll see you guys all hopefully very soon. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up down below. And if you want to see more, subscribe and follow. I'm going to go eat some staff meal now. And we'll see you guys all soon. Peace.